So the pictures for the thumbnail to this video. So on your left you've got Lee Duffy, age around 7, and then the guy on the right is March 99, so he's still 25. That image was when he was in police custody for allegedly punching Peter Wilson, which broke his neck. So that was a few months before he died. Yeah, I think there's been a lot. I've done the 3 books, done the 2 documentaries. I'm completely done now regarding all true crime. But somehow I think it's not finished there. I think people will come along. And the reason being is, it's such an unbelievable, unique story. That kid on the left that you're looking at, scared of his own shadow, vulnerable, timid little creature, his family have told me. And he grew up to be arguably the most feared man to ever grace the streets of Teesside, maybe the northeast. And the biggest thing for me, the biggest tragedy, and the thing that I suppose is most hard to believe regarding the Lee Duffy story is, he died before he reached his peak. He was a heavyweight, wasn't he? And heavyweights these days, a peak heavyweight really is 31. So when you think about it, rather astonishingly, Duffy died 5 years before he actually hit his peak. One's got to ask and think, what would have happened if he'd have reached 27, 28, 29, 30, 35? Could he have changed? How many lives would he have went on to affect? It's massive. It really, really is. It's very, I think I said it so many times, it's very thought-provoking, and it does let the mind wander, and you think, I wonder what the story would have entailed had it have played out. But it was not to be, and very, very sadly, he died at a young age of 26. It's no age, is it? I'm 42. So I've grown up since, I could have probably been his dad, as in, I'm a full generation above him, 15 years. Very, very sad to think that to be pushing up daisies at the age of 26 is just awfully sad. But he's created a huge legacy, and I personally think that legacy will remain, certainly our lifetime. I don't think the interest in him will ever tarnish. I think it'll only grow. 33 years this year. 32 years, sorry. So it's been about 31 and a half years. So he's been dead a lot longer than he's been alive. And in the last couple of years, I've spoken to so many people who've drove up, they've come from Belfast, Newcastle, Manchester, Kent. These are actually just the ones I've actually spoken to see his grave, or to see the commercial, and just basically walk around South Bank. The curiosity is, Lee Duffy, it's very, very sad, apart from a number, maybe 30 public photos, maybe 20-ish public photos in the public domain, a few snippets of his voice. There's no video content, and people are left wondering, and then people think, well, how did he become how he became? And I think there's a huge, strong message in there for any kind of people who think it's glamorous to be how Lee Duffy was. But oh God, I'm writing my 26th book at the minute, Junior Wit of the Avoided, and I will do 100 books in my life. Touch wood, God spares me. I don't get struck by lightning, or piano falls on my head, or you know. And so I personally think I will never be involved again with anything that kind of makes people react to the excitement um, of what Lee Duffy, the name surrounds. You know, I've said it many, many times, and I can only announce it now because the manager of the shop's gone. Um, but so in Waterstones, Middlesbrough, there was 30 stolen the first month that that book was released, coming up for 5 years now. So that kind of that shows you the interest. I actually was in a pub once, and this kind of heroin addict, if you like, shoplifter come in and he said, "Hey mate, do you want to buy a book?" And he actually tried to sell me my own book. Whole of the Moon was about £12.95. I think he tried to sell me for like a fiver. But it is it's a story that has the wow factor. Not many people, not many books. I think Paul Sykes had it, and Duffy had it, and I think that's probably as far as you know. That it's just people balk with excitement. I've spoken to many people, and I literally mean this, who've actually wagged days off work to stay in the house and read when the books arrived. And that's what I mean. It was an excitement that people just wanted to. They had a thirst to find out more. And do you know what? I'd like to take the credit for it, but I can't. You know, I was very pleased with the final product I produced, but ultimately it was down to the story of Lee Paul Duffy, a total icon, a total enigma. Oh God, I could go on and on and on. Yeah, it's just people want to know why and how, and people try and understand him, and they're curious to 30 years next month. That the court case, February '93, and I think in the books, Middlesbrough will never see a court case like it again, for many many different reasons. But yeah, listen, he was he's very very well known now, but before he was nationally known, before he was North East known, before he was Middlesbrough known, he was South Banks, and he was a very patriotic South Banker, Slaggy Island as they call it. And as I said, it's nothing to do with me or the way them books were skillfully written. It was the name Lee Duffy, the Whole of the Moon, and yeah, I'll tell you what, I hope I can find another 3 or 4 of them in the next 70 odd books that I write. You know, it was an unbelievable project, full of ups and downs, full of negativity, full of great interest, full of people captivated, just people wanting to know. And it brought out mixed emotions from either way. I've actually seen people cry. I mean that. I've actually seen people cry for the love they had for him, and the loathing they still have for them this day. I met victims. You know, when I remember talking to David Tappan, the guy who poured the petrol on him, I couldn't help but notice his teeth at the bottom. And they were all knocked out by Lee Duffy. You know, and I've met many, many other victims, many people who wouldn't hear a bad word said against him. And when you look at that picture of that little boy, it's very fitting, the song. And particularly the second documentary I done, Too Far Too Soon. And Lee used to say, I remember Graham Seed talking to me, and I remember Lee Harrison said, Lee used to say that song represents its whole life. And when you actually analyse what that song's about, it's written about a young prince who has this meteoric rise and dies before he reaches his potential. And that's very much exactly like the Lee Duffy story. Yeah, very, very fitting. And one thing I wanted to do when I decided I was going to do them Duffy projects at the back end of 2016, I wanted to use that song. I wanted to use that song to be a vehicle. And boy, did it do that. It really did. And if you go in any pub in Teesside and you put that song on, like I used to as a kid in the Eagle in the Newcastle House, um, more often than not, people will say that's Lee Duffy's song. And they did. They did it a lot to my childhood. I started at the book. I said, I mean, a lot of the critics say, well, how can you write a book? You didn't know him, you never met him. No, I didn't. Never met him. I don't think people met Adolf Hitler or Jack the Ripper when all the hundreds of books have done. But one thing I did say and used it in the summary was I'd heard of him when I was 8, and I believed in Santa Claus till I was 9. And then, I'll never forget that feeling. The news broke when Lee Duffy had been killed a few hours earlier. And it was a bizarre experience. It was like the town was in mourning. It was in a state of shock, and I said it on the documentary. That news rocked the town to its foundations. And what was it, over 30 years ago now? 32 years this year. And I'm yet to see anything as big